Edal Systems, one of the leading company in India for small UAV and drone design and manufacturing, is also focusing on being an expert in all the domain of UAV development, including design services, aerial survey and GIS, along with UAV training, which is offering you CATIA class on finite element references. To contact or further know about the company, visit the link below and feel free to email us on any queries related. What to expect from the course? We'll be talking about the objects and the characteristics, and then elements and the physical properties. Content. Objects and characteristics, we have elements: linear triangle shell, parabolic triangle shell, linear quadrangle shell, linear tetrahedron, parabolic tetrahedron, beam, spring, contact rod, tightening beam, periodic condition, rigid spider, rigid beam, smooth spider, fastened joint, slider joint, contact joint, tightening joint, fitting joint. Under physical properties, we have shell property, solid property, beam property, spring property, contact property, tightening property, periodic property, rigid body motion property, smooth body motion property, slider property, pressure fitting property. The Finite Element Reference Guide provides reference information on the elements used in the analysis workbenches and the physical properties which are associated with these elements. The name of the finite element, type and physical property and the mesh connectivity for linear triangle shell is surface element, which is a physical property of a shell, and a mesh connectivity is linear triangle. Parabolic triangle shell has a type of surface element and a physical property of shell with a parabolic triangle as a mesh connectivity. Linear quadrangle shell has a surface element type and physical property of a shell and is a linear quadrangle mesh connectivity. Linear tetrahedron is a solid element type and a physical property of solid and is a linear tetrahedron mesh connectivity. Parabolic tetrahedron, solid element type and solid physical property with a parabolic tetrahedron mesh connectivity. Beam has a linear element which has a physical property of a beam and its mesh connectivity is rod. Spring has a linear element type and has a physical property of a spring and is a mesh connectivity of a rod. Contact rod is a linear element type and has a contact physical property with a rod mesh type connectivity. Tightening beam is a linear element having a physical property of contact and a mesh connectivity of rod. Periodic condition has a linear element type and a physical property of a periodic and a mesh connectivity of a rod. Rigid spider has a spider element, has a physical property of a rigid body motion and the mesh connectivity of a spider. Smooth spider has a spider element type and has a smooth body motion physical property and a mesh connectivity of a spider. Fastened joint has a joint element type and is a smooth body motion physical property and has a mesh connectivity of a joint. Slider element has a joint element type and a physical property of a slider and has a joint mesh connectivity. Contact joint has a joint element type and has a contact physical property and a joint mesh connectivity. Tightening joint has a joint element type and a tightening physical property and is joint mesh connectivity. Fitting joint has a joint element type and a physical property of pressure fitting and has a mesh connectivity of a joint. Let us start off with the elements in the next session.